Mafia boss finds his adopted daughter in the hospital. His wife's action shocks. Everyone, before we dive into today's story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. We love hearing from you. Now let's begin. The hospital corridor is eerily quiet at this hour. Fluorescent lights hum overhead as a man in an expensive tailored suit rushes through the hallway, his polished shoes clicking urgently against the linoleum floor. This is Donovan Kane, a name that commands respect in boardrooms across the country. But right now, none of that matters. His hands tremble slightly as he approaches room 314. Through the narrow window in the door, he can see her, a small figure lying motionless in the hospital bed, connected to beeping monitors and breathing through an oxygen mask. His daughter, Amara. Donovan's heart drops. He pushes the door open and freezes. His wife, Celestia, is standing beside the bed, methodically adjusting the blankets with precise, almost mechanical movements. Her back is rigid, her face unnaturally calm. She doesn't look up when he enters. "What happened?" Donovan's voice cracks despite his attempt to sound controlled. Celestia finally glances at him, her expression cool and measured. She's overreacting again. The doctors are making a bigger deal out of this than necessary. Donovan moves closer to the bed. Amara's face is pale, too pale. Her breathing sounds labored even with the oxygen. The monitors show numbers he doesn't understand, but the tension in the nurses' faces tells him everything he needs to know. "Overreacting," he repeats, his voice barely a whisper. "Celestia, look at her." "I am looking at her," his wife responds curtly. "She's been having these episodes, attention-seeking behavior. I've been handling it." Before Donovan can respond, a nurse enters the room, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a concerned expression. She glances between the two adults, then speaks directly to Donovan. "Mr. Kane, we need to talk about your daughter's medical history." She pauses, choosing her words carefully, or rather the lack of one. The words hang in the air like a guillotine. "What do you mean, lack of history?" Donovan asks. Though somewhere deep down, he already knows the answer will change everything. The nurse pulls out a tablet, showing him the nearly blank electronic medical record. Amara hasn't seen a pediatrician in over 18 months. No regular checkups, no records of the symptoms she's clearly been experiencing. When we asked her how long she's had trouble breathing, she said, the nurse's voice softens with barely concealed emotion. She said she didn't want to bother anyone. The floor seems to tilt beneath Donovan's feet. Celestia's jaw tightens. That's ridiculous. She never mentioned, "Children shouldn't have to mention not being able to breathe, Mrs. Kane." The nurse interrupts, her professional courtesy wearing thin. "They shouldn't have to advocate for their own survival." Donovan looks down at Amara. Even in sleep, her small face seems tense, as if bracing for disappointment. When did this happen? When did his daughter learn to suffer in silence? The nurse continues, her words cutting through the shocked silence. "The doctor will be in shortly to discuss next steps. But I need to be honest with you both. We're looking at a serious respiratory condition that's been progressing untreated for quite some time. If she hadn't been brought in today..." She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. 3 years earlier. The black sedan pulls up to the Kane mansion just as the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawn. In the back seat sits 7-year-old Amara, clutching a small backpack against her chest, the only possession she's allowed to bring from her previous foster placement. Her eyes are wide as she takes in the massive house before her. It looks like something from a fairy tale, all white columns and tall windows that gleam like promises. A social worker opens the car door and gently guides her out. "Remember what we talked about, sweetie," the woman says softly. "This is your forever home now. Forever." Amara tests the word silently in her mind, afraid to believe it. The front door opens and a woman appears, elegant, composed, dressed in cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse. Celestia Kane descends the steps with a practiced smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Welcome, Amara," she says, her voice polite but formal, as if greeting a business associate rather than a child. "You'll have everything you need here." Inside, the house is beautiful but somehow cold. Every surface shines. Every piece of furniture sits at precise angles. Amara's worn sneakers squeak against the marble floor, and she immediately stops walking, afraid she's doing something wrong. Celestia leads her upstairs to a bedroom decorated in neutral tones. Beige walls, white furniture, perfectly arranged stuffed animals that look like they've never been touched. "This is your room. Dinner is at 6:30 sharp. We maintain a structured schedule in this house." Amara whispers, "Thank you," so quietly she's not sure the words actually came out. From somewhere down the hall, she can hear a deep male voice talking rapidly on a phone call. Something about quarterly earnings and market projections. That must be her new father, though he doesn't appear to greet her. The social worker kneels down, giving Amara one last hug. "You're going to be happy here," she promises. But as the woman leaves, Amara feels a familiar hollow sensation in her chest. The months that follow blur together. Dinner's at the long dining table where Amara sits perfectly still, fork and knife positioned exactly as Celestia demonstrated. "Posture, Amara," Celestia reminds her. "Shoulders back." Mornings when Donovan leaves for work before Amara wakes up, returning long after she's supposed to be asleep. Piano lessons where Amara's fingers stumble over the keys, and Celestia sighs, "You need to focus harder." Slowly, carefully, Amara learns the unwritten rules. Don't make noise. Don't ask for things. Don't cause problems. Be the perfect daughter on paper. She also begins noticing something else, a tightness in her chest when she runs during recess, a strange breathless feeling when she climbs stairs. She tells herself it's just nerves, new home anxiety. It'll pass. During her second year in the house, it happens for the first time. Amara is practicing piano when the room suddenly tilts. She can't catch her breath. Her vision darkens at the edges. The next thing she knows, she's on the floor, Celestia standing over her with an annoyed expression. "Get up, Amara. You're letting yourself get worked up over nothing. You need to learn self-control." Amara pushes herself up, still dizzy, still unable to fill her lungs completely. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "Stop apologizing and try harder," Celestia responds, already turning away. "You'll never improve with this kind of dramatic behavior." That night, Amara lies in her perfect bedroom, staring at the ceiling, pressing a hand against her chest where it feels tight and wrong. She thinks about asking to see a doctor, but the words die in her throat. She's finally found a forever home. She can't risk losing it by being difficult. She has to be good. She has to be enough. 6 months before the hospital, Amara wakes in the middle of the night, gasping. Her chest feels like it's trapped in a vice, each breath a struggle. Panic floods through her. This is different from the other times. Worse. She throws off her blankets and stumbles to her bedroom door, her heart pounding so hard it hurts. The hallway is dark and silent. For a long moment, she stands frozen, terrified of what she's about to do. Then she knocks, softly at first, then a little harder. The door opens. Celestia stands there in a silk robe, her expression immediately shifting from sleepy to irritated. "Amara, it's 2 in the morning. What's wrong?" I can't breathe right," Amara manages between shallow gasps. "Something's wrong." Celestia's eyes narrow. "You had a nightmare. You're 10 years old now, much too old to be waking me up over bad dreams." "No, it's not." Amara tries to explain, but Celestia is already moving toward the bathroom. She returns with a glass of water and hands it to Amara with barely concealed impatience. "Drink this. Go back to bed. You're letting anxiety control you. Deep breaths, in and out. You can manage this yourself." "But, Amara..." Celestia's voice drops to that particular tone that means the conversation is over. "Back to bed. Now." Amara returns to her room, still struggling to breathe, tears silently streaming down her face. She sits propped against her headboard until dawn, too afraid to lie down because it makes the tightness worse. Morning comes with pale winter light. At breakfast, Donovan is already at the table, scrolling through his tablet while drinking coffee. He glances up when Amara enters and actually looks at her. Really looks. For the first time in weeks. He frowns. "You okay, sweetheart? You look pale." Amara's heart leaps. He noticed. Maybe. But before she can answer, his phone buzzes. His attention immediately shifts. "Hold that thought," he says, already standing, pressing the phone to his ear. "This is Kane." "Yes, I've been waiting for your call." He walks out of the room, voice fading down the hallway. Amara sits down carefully, the moment evaporating like morning fog. Celestia sets a plate in front of her, precisely portioned fruit and toast. "Eat. You have school in 40 minutes. Amara picks at her breakfast, each swallow difficult. Finally, gathering every ounce of courage, she speaks. "Mom, I think maybe I should see a doctor. My chest feels..." Amara. Celestia doesn't even look up from her own plate. "You're fine. If it persists, we'll consider it. But I won't have you seeking attention through complaints. I'm not enough." The word lands like a door slamming shut. At school, things get worse. During recess, Amara stays on the bench while the other kids play tag. Running makes her chest burn, makes her vision swim. She's learned to avoid it. In gym class, she invents excuses. "I forgot my sneakers. My stomach hurts." The teacher, Miss Delaney, starts keeping a concerned eye on her. One afternoon, Miss Delaney writes a note in Amara's planner. "Is everything all right at home? Amara seems very tired lately. Please call me if you have concerns about her health." When Celestia reads it that evening, her jaw tightens. She writes back in neat cursive, "Everything is fine. Amara is adjusting well. Thank you for your concern." She never mentions the note to Donovan. 2 weeks later, it happens. During a class presentation, Amara stands in front of her classmates reading her report on the solar system. Halfway through describing Jupiter's moons, the room starts spinning. She can't catch her breath. The paper trembles in her hands. Then everything goes dark. She wakes up on the classroom floor, Miss Delaney's worried face hovering above her, other students gathered in a frightened semicircle. "Someone call the office," Miss Delaney says firmly. "Get the nurse, now." When Celestia arrives at the school, her smile is pleasant, but her eyes are hard. She thanks the staff profusely, assures them it's just low blood sugar, promises it won't happen again. In the car, she says nothing until they pull into the driveway. "That," she says quietly, "was embarrassing. For both of us." Amara stares at her lap, wishing she could disappear entirely. The phone call comes the next morning. The school secretary's voice is polite but firm. Amara needs a medical clearance before she can return to class. It's policy after an incident like yesterday's. Celestia's grip tightens on the phone. "Of course. I understand completely." She hangs up, her expression unreadable. Amara watches from the doorway, her stomach twisting with guilt. "Get your coat," Celestia says coolly. "We're going to the clinic." The waiting room smells like disinfectant and old magazines. Amara sits perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, while Celestia fills out paperwork with sharp, irritated strokes of the pen. When the doctor finally calls them back, he's a tired-looking man who barely glances up from his computer screen. He listens to Amara's chest with a stethoscope, asks her to breathe deeply. She tries but can't quite fill her lungs all the way. The doctor frowns slightly. "How long has she been experiencing shortness of breath?" Celestia answers before Amara can speak. "She hasn't mentioned it before yesterday." The doctor looks at Amara. "Is that true?" Amara feels her mother's eyes on her. She nods slowly, throat tight. The doctor scribbles something on a prescription pad. "I'm hearing some wheezing. Given her symptoms, I'd recommend seeing a pediatric pulmonologist, a lung specialist. They can do more comprehensive testing." He tears off the referral slip and hands it to Celestia. "Thank you, doctor," Celestia says with a pleasant smile. "We'll look into that." She never calls to make the appointment. Instead, when they arrive home, the temperature in the house seems to drop 10 degrees. Celestia moves through the rooms with cold efficiency, and Amara understands without being told. She's caused trouble. She's been a burden. That evening at dinner, Donovan is away on a business trip. It's just the two of them at the long table. the silence heavy as stone. "You're looking tired again," Celestia observes, cutting her chicken with precise movements. "You should go to bed earlier. Stop staying up reading those books." Amara hasn't been reading. She's been sitting up because lying down makes her chest feel worse. But she doesn't correct the assumption. "Yes, ma'am," she whispers. That night, Amara does something she's never done before. In the privacy of her room, she pulls out a notebook from her school backpack and opens to a blank page. At the top, she writes in careful letters, "Things I need to fix about myself." Below it, she begins a list. 1. Stop complaining. 2. Don't get sick. 3. Be quieter. 4. Make mom proud. 5. Don't disappoint dad. She underlines number 5 3 times, pressing the pencil so hard it nearly tears through the paper. Then she hides the notebook under her mattress, where no one will ever find it. The days blur together. Amara becomes an expert at being invisible. She keeps her room immaculate. She finishes all her homework without being asked. She eats every bite on her plate, even when her stomach rebels. She smiles when adults look her way. At school, Miss Delaney watches her with increasing concern. The bright, curious girl who used to raise her hand constantly has become a shadow of herself. Quiet, withdrawn, going through the motions. One afternoon, Miss Delaney pulls her aside gently. "Amara, honey, are you feeling better since the incident?" Amara forces her brightest smile. "Yes, Miss Delaney, I'm fine, really." But she's not fine. The tightness in her chest is constant now, a companion she's learned to ignore. She's developed tricks, breathing slowly through her nose, pausing at the top of staircases, avoiding anything that might trigger an episode. She's become a master of pretending everything is okay. 3 weeks later, Miss Delaney makes another call. This time, she doesn't leave a message in the planner. She calls the house directly, and when Celestia answers, her tone is more insistent than before. "Mrs. Kane, I'm calling because I'm genuinely worried about Amara. She seemed diminished, and I wanted to make sure the medical issue has been properly addressed." Celestia's voice remains smooth as silk. "Thank you for your concern, Miss Delaney. But Amara is perfectly fine. Some teachers simply overstep their boundaries when it comes to matters they don't fully understand." She hangs up without saying goodbye. In her room, Amara hears the click of the phone and feels her chest tighten even more, not from her condition this time, but from pure fear. She's causing problems again. Saturday morning arrives with unexpected sunshine. Donovan returns from his business trip on Friday night, and for once, he's home for the weekend. When he comes downstairs and sees Amara at the kitchen table, something in her stillness makes him pause. "Hey, kiddo," he says, his voice softer than usual. "Want to go to the park today? Just you and me?" Amara's face lights up so suddenly, so completely, that Donovan feels a pang of guilt. When was the last time he saw her smile like that? "Really?" she breathes. "Really? Go get your jacket." The park is beautiful in the late autumn light. They walk slowly along the paths, Amara carefully hiding how she needs to stop every few minutes, pretending to admire the changing leaves when really she's catching her breath. Donovan buys them ice cream from a vendor, and they sit on a bench together. For the first time in months, he actually talks to her, asks about school, her favorite subjects, if she's made friends. "Are you happy here, Amara?" he asks suddenly, looking at her with genuine concern. "With us?" Her heart swells. He cares. He's asking. "Yes," she says quickly, desperately not wanting to ruin this perfect moment. "I'm really happy, Dad. And you're feeling okay? Healthy? No more problems like at school?" This is her chance. She could tell him about the tightness in her chest, the constant exhaustion, the fear. But his eyes are so hopeful, and this day has been so perfect. And she's learned what happens when she causes worry. "I'm fine," she lies with a smile. "That was just a weird day. I'm all better now." Relief floods his face. "Good, that's good." He wraps an arm around her shoulders and she leans into him, savoring the warmth, the safety. "We should do this more often," he promises. "Deal?" "Deal," she whispers, holding on to that promise like a lifeline. But when they return home, Celestia is waiting. She pulls Donovan aside while Amara heads upstairs. Their voices carry through the walls. Celestia's measured and calm, explaining that Amara has been manipulating situations for attention, that adopted children sometimes test boundaries by creating drama. She knows exactly what she's doing, Celestia says quietly, making you feel guilty so you'll coddle her. Donovan stands in the hallway, torn between what he saw today and what his wife is telling him. Finally, exhausted from travel, he nods slowly. The promise of more park visits fades before it even begins. That night, Amara has the worst episode yet. She wakes up gasping, stumbles to the bathroom, and the world tilts sideways. She hits the tile floor hard, biting her tongue. The metallic taste of blood fills her mouth. When she comes to, she's alone on the cold floor, disoriented and terrified. She could call for help. She should call for help. But the words Celestia used earlier echo. Attention-seeking, dramatic, manipulative. Slowly, shakily, Amara gets to her feet. She rinses her mouth, cleaning away the blood, returns to her room and climbs back into bed, trembling. She doesn't tell anyone. The weeks that follow are a slow unraveling. Amara's symptoms worsen in ways she can no longer hide completely. Her lips take on a faint bluish tint when she climbs stairs. A persistent cough rattles in her chest. Dark circles bloom under her eyes like bruises. At school, she sits alone during recess, too exhausted to join the other children. Miss Delaney finds her there one afternoon, slumped on a bench, staring at nothing. "Amara?" The teacher kneels beside her. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Amara's response is automatic, emotionless. "I'm fine, just tired." But Miss Delaney sees what Amara can't. A child slowly disappearing from the inside out. That evening, the teacher sits at her desk long after the other faculty have left. She opens Amara's file and begins documenting everything. The dated observations, the declining participation, the physical changes. Then she picks up the phone and calls the school health office. "I need to report a concern about one of my students," she says quietly. At home, things continue to deteriorate. Celestia notices Amara eating less, moving slower. Instead of concern, she feels annoyance building like pressure behind her eyes. "You're becoming lazy," she says one evening, watching Amara struggle up the stairs. "You need to push yourself harder. Show some discipline." She implements an even stricter schedule, earlier wake times, additional chores, less free time for moping around. Amara obeys silently, moving through the house like a ghost. Donovan is barely home. A major corporate merger consumes his days and nights. When he is there, Amara has perfected the art of seeming normal for the brief moments he's in the room. But one night, something cracks in Celestia. It's 2 in the morning when she passes Amara's room and sees light beneath the door. She opens it, ready to scold her for being awake. The words die in her throat. Amara is sitting upright in bed, back against the wall, eyes closed, clearly struggling to breathe. Her chest rises and falls rapidly, her small hands gripping the sheets. For 3 long seconds, Celestia stands frozen. The image doesn't match the narrative she's constructed. The dramatic child seeking attention. This is something else. Something real. She almost steps forward, almost asks if she's okay. Then Amara's eyes flutter open. Seeing Celestia, she immediately lies down flat, forcing a sleepy expression. "Sorry," she whispers. "Bad dream. Going back to sleep now." Celestia backs out of the room and closes the door. But she doesn't leave. She stands in the dark hallway, hand still on the doorknob, a small frown creasing her forehead. Inside her room, Amara counts her heartbeats, waiting for the door to open again. It doesn't. The next morning, an official letter arrives. The school's letterhead is crisp and formal. Inside, the language is polite but firm. Due to ongoing health concerns and the lack of proper medical documentation, Amara will need a comprehensive evaluation within 15 days, or the school will be required to contact Child Protective Services. Celestia reads it twice, her jaw tightening with each word. Things are about to change. The letter sits on Celestia's desk like an accusation. She reads it a third time, her composure cracking at the edges. This isn't just inconvenient anymore. It's becoming a problem she can't control with cold logic and rigid schedules. When Amara returns from school that afternoon, Celestia is waiting in the study. "Come here, please." The words are polite, but Amara knows that tone. Her stomach drops. She enters the room and stands with her hands clasped, eyes on the floor. Celestia doesn't raise her voice. She never needs to. The school has sent a letter. "Because of you, they're threatening to involve authorities. Do you understand what that means?" "I'm sorry," Amara whispers immediately. "You're making this family look negligent. After everything we've given you, a home, stability, opportunities, this is how you repay us, by causing problems." "I didn't mean to." "You never mean to, do you?" Celestia's voice is ice. But somehow there's always drama, always something wrong. Amara's vision blurs with tears. "I'll be better. I promise. I won't go to your room. No dinner tonight. Maybe the quiet will help you think about your choices." Amara climbs the stairs slowly, each step a mountain. When she reaches her room, she closes the door and slides to the floor, pressing her hands against her chest where it hurts most. She cries silently, shoulders shaking, convinced that everything is her fault. Donovan arrives home late that night. Celestia intercepts him in the foyer, showing him the letter with carefully chosen words. "The school is overreacting to Amara's attention-seeking. I'll schedule some tests to prove there's nothing wrong and end this nonsense." Donovan, exhausted from 14-hour workdays, nods slowly. "If you think that's best." But something nags at him. A small voice he keeps pushing down. He heads upstairs to check on Amara before bed. Her door is slightly open. What he sees stops him cold. Amara is sitting upright in bed, back pressed against the wall, eyes closed. Her breathing is shallow and labored, unmistakably wrong. The moonlight through the window catches her face, highlighting how pale she's become, how small. For the first time, Donovan sees what's been happening under his own roof. His daughter is sick, really sick, and he's done nothing. The realization hits him like a physical blow. His hand grips the doorframe as guilt crashes over him in waves. How long has she been like this? How many signs did he miss? How many times did she try to be brave while he buried himself in work, trusting Celestia to handle everything? He wants to go in, to scoop her up, to fix everything right now. But shame roots him to the spot. He backs away from the door silently, his heart pounding, mind racing. "Tomorrow," he tells himself. "Tomorrow, I'll make this right." But tomorrow may already be too late. Miss Delaney's classroom is empty after hours. She sits at her desk surrounded by papers. Not lesson plans, but documentation. Months of observations about Amara Kane, carefully dated and detailed. September, bright, engaged, asks thoughtful questions. October, noticeably quieter, stops participating in gym class. November, first fainting incident. Parents dismiss it as low blood sugar. December, withdrawn, sits alone at recess, dark circles under eyes. The pattern is undeniable. She picks up her phone and dials a number she hoped she'd never need to use. School Social Services. This is Mrs. Vivienne Holt speaking. "Vivienne, it's Caroline Delaney from Riverside Elementary. I need to talk to you about one of my students." 30 minutes later, they're meeting in the school's conference room. Vivienne is in her 50s, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. She's seen hundreds of cases, knows the subtle signs that others overlook. Miss Delaney spreads out her documentation. Her name is Amara Kane. She was adopted 3 years ago. At first, she seemed to be adjusting well, but over the past year, Vivienne listens, occasionally making notes. When Miss Delaney finishes, she asks quietly, "What does your gut tell you?" That she's learned to hide pain, that she's trying to be perfect because she's terrified of losing her home. Miss Delaney's voice cracks, and that she's getting sicker while nobody's paying attention. Vivienne closes her notebook. "I'll make a home visit. Today." Meanwhile, across town, Donovan sits in his office. The contract in front of him might as well be written in a foreign language. He can't focus. All he sees is Amara's face in the moonlight, struggling to breathe. His hand moves almost without conscious thought, reaching for his desk drawer. Inside is Amara's school folder, materials Celestia usually handles. He's never looked through it before. He opens it now. Notes from Miss Delaney fall out, multiple notes spanning months. Concerned about Amara's energy levels? Please call regarding her health. Amara seems very withdrawn lately. Notes Celestia never showed him, never mentioned. His hands shake as he reads each one. Then he picks up his phone and searches for pediatric specialists in the area. His finger hovers over the first number. He glances at his watch. Almost midnight. First thing tomorrow, he whispers to himself. But the words sound hollow, like all his other broken promises. He looks at the phone again, at Amara's folder, at the mountain of work on his desk. What kind of father has he become? At that exact moment across the city, Vivian Holt pulls up to the Kane mansion. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. She steps out of her car, briefcase in hand, and approaches the front door. She rings the bell. Inside, Celestia hears the chime and frowns. They're not expecting anyone. And upstairs in her study room, Amara is alone, bent over her homework, fighting for every breath. The doorbell rings again. Celestia walks to answer it, completely unaware that everything is about to change. The moment of reckoning has arrived. Celestia opens the door with a practiced smile. "Can I help you?" Vivian Holt extends her credentials. "Mrs. Kane, I'm Vivian Holt from School Social Services. I'm here to do a wellness check on Amara." "May I come in?" The smile on Celestia's face doesn't waver, but her eyes harden. "Of course, though I assure you this is completely unnecessary." She leads Vivian through the pristine house, every word carefully measured. Amara is perfectly fine. The school has overreacted to a minor health episode. "I'd like to see her if that's all right." "Certainly, she's studying upstairs." But when they reach the study room and open the door, both women freeze. Amara is slumped over her desk, one hand pressed against her chest, her breathing rapid and shallow. Her lips have a distinctly blue tinge. Papers are scattered where her arm knocked them aside. Vivienne moves immediately, professional training taking over. She kneels beside Amara, gently touching her shoulder. "Amara, can you hear me?" The girl's eyes flutter open, confused and frightened. She tries to sit up straight to fix her appearance. "I'm okay," she gasps automatically. "I'm fine." But she's clearly not fine. Vivian pulls out her phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." "That's not necessary," Celestia begins. "Mrs. Kane." Vivian's voice cuts through like steel. "Your daughter is in respiratory distress. This is not optional." The ambulance arrives within minutes. Paramedics rush in with equipment asking rapid-fire questions that Celestia can't answer. When did the symptoms start? What's her medical history? What medications is she on? I don't know, Celestia admits, her composure finally cracking at the edges. The lead paramedic looks up sharply. "You don't know your daughter's medical history?" Before anyone can respond, tires screech in the driveway. Donovan bursts through the front door, his face ashen. "What happened?" "I got a call about an ambulance." He sees Amara on the floor, an oxygen mask over her face, and his world tilts. "Sir, are you the father?" a paramedic asks. Yes, I'm her father. We need to transport her immediately. You can follow us to County General." As they load Amara onto a stretcher, Vivian steps beside Donovan. Her voice is quiet but firm. "Mr. Kane, when was the last time Amara saw a doctor? When was her last checkup?" Donovan opens his mouth, but no words come. He doesn't know. He has no idea. The realization is devastating. I don't. "We need to talk," Vivian says gently. "But first, your daughter needs you." At the hospital, doctors swarm around Amara. Donovan and Celestia are directed to the waiting room, where they sit in heavy silence. Other families glance at them curiously, the well-dressed couple who look like they have everything. 45 minutes feel like 45 years. Finally, a doctor emerges, her expression grave. "Mr. and Mrs. Kane, I need to speak with you about your daughter's condition." They stand, and Donovan's voice comes out hoarse. Is she okay? The doctor's eyes are kind but serious. She's stable for now, but we need to discuss something important. She leads them to a private consultation room. What she tells them will change everything. Dr. Marlena Finch closes the door behind them. She's a pediatric pulmonologist with 20 years of experience, and she doesn't waste time with pleasantries. Your daughter has severe chronic asthma, complicated by what appears to be a structural airway issue that we're still evaluating. Based on her current condition and the damage we're seeing, these symptoms have been progressing untreated for well over a year. Donovan feels the room spin. Over a year? If she hadn't been brought in today, Dr. Finch continues, her eyes moving between them, we'd be having a very different conversation. Possibly in a few days, maybe sooner. The words hang in the air like a sentence. Celestia's voice is tight. She never said she was in pain, she never complained. Dr. Finch's expression softens, but her words remain firm. Mrs. Kane, children who've experienced instability, especially adopted children, often don't complain. They show you through behavior changes, through what they stop doing. It's the responsibility of the adults in their lives to notice. Donovan's hands are shaking. He presses them flat against his thighs. What do we need to do? Medically, she'll need ongoing treatment, monitoring, possibly some procedures. But Mr. and Mrs. Kane, Dr. Finch pauses, choosing her words carefully. The physical damage can be managed. What concerns me more is how she got this sick without anyone intervening. That tells me there's a bigger issue here. A knock on the door interrupts them. Vivian Holt enters, her presence suddenly carrying weight. Mr. Kane, Mrs. Kane, I need to inform you that the Department of Child Services will be opening a case for mandatory monitoring. You'll both be required to attend parenting counseling, and there will be regular home visits. Celestia's facade finally cracks. This is ridiculous. We've provided everything. Everything except attention, Vivian says quietly. Everything except care. Donovan stands abruptly. For the first time in years, clarity cuts through him like lightning. He turns to Celestia and his voice breaks. Why didn't you tell me the school was concerned? Why didn't you show me the teacher's notes? I handled it. You didn't handle anything. The words explode from him, months of buried guilt erupting. Our daughter was dying and you called it attention-seeking. Celestia's face goes pale. I believed. You believed what you wanted to believe because it was easier than actually seeing her. The silence that follows is devastating. Vivian speaks softly. Mr. Kane, your anger is understandable, but you also need to ask yourself, where were you? The question hits him like a physical blow. Where was he? Buried in work, trusting Celestia to handle everything, choosing his career over his daughter again and again. He sinks back into his chair, his head in his hands. At that moment, a nurse appears in the doorway. She's awake. She's asking for you. Donovan and Celestia both rise, but as they move toward the door, they hear it. Amara's small, raspy voice from down the hall. I tried to be good, so no one would be mad. The words stop Donovan in his tracks. His daughter believed she had to earn love by suffering in silence, and it nearly killed her. Donovan stays at the hospital through the night. Celestia goes home after an hour of tense silence, unable to face the reality unfolding around her. But Donovan can't leave. He sits in the uncomfortable chair beside Amara's bed, watching the rise and fall of her chest, the monitors tracking every heartbeat. Around midnight, Dr. Finch and Vivian find him in the hallway. We need to talk, Vivian says gently. There are things you should know. They move to a quiet consultation room. Vivian opens a folder. We've been investigating, Mr. Kane. Your wife canceled at least 3 medical appointments that the school scheduled for Amara. She also ignored multiple concerns raised by teachers over the past 6 months. Donovan's jaw tightens. I didn't know about any of this. Why didn't you know? Vivian's question isn't accusatory. It's genuinely curious. He has no answer that doesn't indict himself. Dr. Finch adds quietly, We've also learned that Amara frequently came to school in inadequate clothing for the weather. Not severe, but enough to notice, and she rarely had proper lunches. What? Donovan's voice cracks. Your wife believed these things built character, Vivian explains, but they indicate a pattern of emotional distance and lack of nurturing care. Donovan thinks back to all the moments he missed. Amara always agreeing with everything, never asking for anything, the way she seemed to shrink when Celestia entered a room. How could he have been so blind? The medical news isn't all bad, Dr. Finch offers. Amara has chronic asthma with a minor structural issue. It's manageable with proper treatment, inhalers, monitoring, some lifestyle adjustments. She'll be okay physically. She pauses. But emotionally, Mr. Kane, she needs an environment where she feels safe enough to say when something hurts. Can you provide that? The question hangs between them. Before Donovan can answer, a small voice comes from the doorway. Daddy? They all turn. Amara stands there in her hospital gown, clutching her IV pole, looking impossibly small and fragile. Sweetheart, you should be in bed. Am I going home? Her voice is barely a whisper, and the fear in it breaks something fundamental inside him. She's not asking if she's medically cleared. She's asking if she's still wanted. Donovan crosses to her in 2 strides and drops to his knees so they're eye level. Yes, he says, his voice thick with emotion. You're coming home. And things are going to be different. I promise you, Amara. I promise. Even if I get sick again? Especially then. She searches his face for truth, for safety, for something she's never quite found before. Okay, she finally whispers. He pulls her into a gentle hug, mindful of her IV, and feels her small body begin to shake with silent sobs. Vivian watches from the doorway and makes a note in her file. This family is broken, but maybe, just maybe, they can learn to heal, if they're willing to do the work. The next morning, Donovan makes a decision that will change everything. He sits in the hospital cafeteria at dawn, phone in hand, and begins canceling meetings. The merger he's been working on for 6 months? Someone else can handle it. The conference in London next week? Not going. For the first time in his career, work comes second. He hires a private nurse for Amara's first weeks home. He schedules appointments with specialists, researches the best pediatric psychologists, buys books on parenting adopted children. He's trying to cram years of absence into days of frantic action. That afternoon, Vivian calls a mandatory family meeting. Donovan, Celestia, and several professionals gather in a conference room at Child Services. The atmosphere is heavy with consequence. Vivian lays out the terms clearly. Mrs. Kane, you'll begin individual therapy twice weekly, focusing on emotional regulation and attachment. You'll also complete a parenting course specifically designed for adoptive families. All interactions with Amara will be supervised until we see consistent progress. Celestia's face is stone, but she nods stiffly. Mr. Kane, you'll attend family therapy and individual counseling as well. Your work schedule must allow for active, present parenting. Whatever it takes, Donovan says immediately. Vivian's eyes soften slightly. I want to believe that. But Amara needs to see change, not just hear promises. The first family therapy session is 2 days later. Dr. Simone Carver's office is warm and comfortable, designed to put people at ease. But the tension in the room is thick enough to cut. Let's start with each of you sharing how you feel, Dr. Carver suggests gently. Amara speaks first, her voice barely audible. I feel scared that I'm causing too much trouble, that everyone would be happier if I just went away. The words hit like a hammer. Donovan's composure shatters. Tears stream down his face as he reaches for his daughter's hand. No. No, sweetheart. You are not the problem. I am. I failed you. I'm so sorry. It's the first time Amara has ever seen him cry. Celestia sits rigid, her hands clenched in her lap. When Dr. Carver gently prompts her, she struggles to speak. I don't know how to do this, she finally admits, her voice cracking. I thought providing structure was enough. I thought... She can't finish. For the first time, tears glisten in her eyes. Dr. Carver nods. Celestia, acknowledging that is the first step. But now comes the harder part, learning that love isn't about control. As they leave the session, Celestia stops Donovan in the parking lot. "I didn't know it would get this bad," she whispers, something broken in her voice. "I truly didn't know how to be softer." Donovan looks at her, really looks, and sees not a villain, but someone who's also deeply damaged in ways he never understood. "We both have work to do," he says quietly. "But Amara comes first now. Always." Celestia nods slowly, wiping her eyes. That night, as Amara sleeps in her hospital bed one last time before discharge, something shifts in the Kane family. It's not redemption. Not yet. But it's a beginning. Amara comes home on a Tuesday morning. The house looks the same, but everything feels different. Donovan has transformed the guest room next to his into a medical space. Nebulizer, organized medications, a journal for tracking symptoms. He's attended 3 training sessions on managing childhood asthma. For the first time in her life, he's truly present. Celestia has moved temporarily to the downstairs guest suite, as required by the court order. The separation is awkward, painful, but necessary. 2 weeks later, during a supervised visit, something remarkable happens. Celestia is in the kitchen, attempting to make dinner. She's following a recipe for chicken parmesan, Amara's favorite, according to Vivienne. The realization that she had to ask a social worker what her own daughter likes to eat stops Celestia mid-motion. She stands at the counter, a wooden spoon in her trembling hand, and whispers to the empty room, "I don't even know her favorite food." The weight of that truth crushes her. When Amara enters the kitchen, she finds Celestia sitting at the table, eyes red. "Are you okay?" Amara asks hesitantly. Celestia looks up, and for the first time drops all pretense. "No, I'm not. I failed you, Amara. I convinced myself that rules and structure were love, but they weren't. They were just control." She slides a small box across the table. Inside is a simple bracelet with an engraved charm. "You are enough." "I know I can't fix everything with a gift," Celestia continues, her voice breaking. "But I want you to know, you were always enough. I was the one who wasn't." Amara stares at the bracelet, then at this woman she barely recognizes. Vulnerable, honest, human. "Can you try?" Amara asks softly. "To be different?" "I'm already trying," Celestia whispers. "Every single day. It's not forgiveness. Not yet. But it's an open door." Meanwhile, Donovan begins to understand his own failures. In individual therapy, Dr. Carver asks him a devastating question. "What were you running from, Donovan? What made work safer than home?" He sits in silence for a long time before answering. "My own father was absent, always working. I swore I'd be different, and then I became exactly like him. And now I see what it cost." He wipes his eyes. "I almost lost her because I was too much of a coward to be present." Small victories begin to accumulate. Amara uses her inhaler without hiding in her room. Donovan sits beside her during treatments, learning her breathing patterns, asking how she feels. One evening she laughs, really laughs, at a silly movie they're watching together. The sound fills the house like music. At a follow-up appointment, Dr. Finch smiles. "Her lung function is improving significantly. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it." But the biggest moment comes 6 weeks after the hospital. Amara's psychologist, Dr. Ileana Morris, calls Donovan in for a private session. "Amara said something important today," she begins. "She said she's starting to believe that love doesn't have conditions. But there's still one thing she needs to hear from you." "What?" Donovan asks immediately. "Doctor." Morris looks at him steadily. "She needs to know she's loved just for existing, not for being good, not for being easy, not for being perfect, just for being Amara." The words settle over Donovan like a mission. He knows exactly what he needs to do. Donovan spends 3 days planning something he's never done before. With Dr. Morris's guidance, he creates what she calls a ceremony of belonging, not a legal proceeding, since Amara is already legally his daughter, but an emotional one. A moment to replace all the unspoken rejections with spoken promises. He invites Miss Delaney, Vivian, Dr. Finch, Dr. Morris, and 3 of Amara's classmates, the girls who've stood by her even when she withdrew. Celestia is invited but asked to remain in the background. She's still in process, still learning. She agrees without protest. The night before, Donovan does something he should have done years ago. He sits with Amara in her room and asks about her life before them. The foster homes, the temporary families, the feeling of never quite belonging anywhere. She speaks haltingly at first, then more openly, sharing memories she's kept locked away. The family who forgot her birthday, the home where she slept on a cot in the laundry room, the constant fear of doing something wrong and being sent away. Donovan listens without interrupting, his heart breaking with every word. When she finishes, he takes her hands gently. "You belong here, Amara, not because you're well-behaved or because you don't cause trouble. You belong here because you're you. And I'm sorry, so deeply sorry, that it took me this long to show you that." Amara's eyes fill with tears. "Even when I mess up?" "Especially then." They sit together in comfortable silence until she yawns. "Get some rest," he says, kissing her forehead. "Tomorrow is a special day." Meanwhile, Celestia sits alone in her temporary room downstairs. She's been attending therapy 3 times a week, slowly unpacking patterns she learned from her own cold upbringing. It's painful work, peeling back layers of defense mechanisms she's worn for decades. She thinks about Amara, really thinks about her, and realizes how little she knows. The girl's dreams, her fears, her favorite color, the things that make her laugh. She's lived with this child for 3 years and barely knows her at all. A soft knock interrupts her thoughts. Donovan stands in the doorway. "I don't know if I can be what she needs," Celestia admits quietly. "Then start by being honest," Donovan replies. "She doesn't need perfect, she needs real." After he leaves, Celestia makes a decision. She picks up her journal, assigned by her therapist, and begins writing a letter to Amara. Not excuses, but truth. Acknowledgement. A promise to keep trying, even when it's hard. The morning of the ceremony arrives with golden sunlight. Amara wakes early, nervous but also hopeful in a way she's never felt before. She touches the bracelet Celestia gave her. "You are enough," and takes a deep breath that fills her lungs more completely than it has in months. Downstairs, Donovan reviews the letter he's written. Pages and pages of everything he should have said years ago. Promises for the future. An honest accounting of his failures. And most importantly, the words Amara needs to hear. The guests begin arriving. Miss Delaney brings a photo album she secretly compiled. Vivian carries a certificate. The girls from school giggle nervously, honored to be included. And Celestia, dressed simply, stands near the back, her own letter folded in her pocket. Everything is ready. The living room has been transformed with simple, meaningful touches. Photos of Amara smiling. Her drawings from school. Flowers she once mentioned liking in a conversation Donovan finally paid attention to. Everyone gathers in a semicircle. Amara stands in the center, looking small but brave. Donovan kneels before her, a powerful man brought to his knees by love and regret. "Amara," his voice breaks immediately. "For 3 years, you tried to earn a place that was always yours. You didn't need to be perfect. You didn't need to hide your pain. This paper," he holds up the adoption documents, "says you're my daughter, but I failed to make you feel it." He hands her a thick letter, his hands trembling. "This is everything I should have said, every promise I'm making. You are loved, not for what you do, but for who you are." Amara reads through tears. When she finishes, she whispers, "Even if I get sick again." Donovan pulls her into his arms. "Especially then. Daughters don't exist to be convenient. They exist to be loved." "And I love you." Miss Delaney steps forward with the photo album. "We've been watching you, sweetie. You were never invisible to us." Vivian adds a certificate of courage. The girls give handmade cards. Then Celestia approaches, visibly shaking. She kneels too, meeting Amara's eyes. I treated you like a project, not a person. I thought rules were love. I was wrong. She offers a small box with a bracelet inside. I'm learning, and if you let me, I'll keep trying. After a long pause, Amara whispers, "Okay." It's not complete forgiveness, but it's hope. 6 months later, morning sunlight fills the kitchen. Amara sits doing homework when she feels familiar tightness in her chest. Without fear, without shame, she simply says, "Dad, I need my inhaler." Donovan immediately brings it, sitting beside her while she uses it, his hand steady on her back. When she finishes, she breathes deeply, clearly, fully. "Better?" She smiles. "Better." They return to their peaceful morning routine. The camera pulls back slowly as a gentle voice speaks. Home isn't where you try to be perfect. Home is where you can breathe. The screen fades to black. The end.